In a heart city of Lagos, Nigeria, there lived a young lady named Grace, whose heart was deeply rooted in her love for the church. Grace was a devoted Christian. Grace was so religious that she only wears skirts or gown. You will never see Grace put on a cloth that belongs to the opposite sex, say trouser or knicker. One church morning as the church bell rang, Grace found herself drawn to a charismatic stranger who had recently joined the congregation. His name was Mark, a charming man who quickly became a permanent figure in the church community. Mark recognized the sincerely in Grace's eye express a deep interest in getting to know her better. Their connection deepened and Grace found herself entangled in church romance. Grace has always wanted to get married. So when she met Mark, she was excited and believed she had met the man of her dream, a church man for that matter. Mark proposed to Grace and she eagerly accepted it. However, their journey to the altar was marked by an unexpected turn of events. Grace discovered she was pregnant before the proper church wedding. Even though Mark had paid Grace traditional rites, Grace felt that it wasn't okay for her as a church girl to be pregnant and do church wedding. She believed it is a disgrace to her personality and everything she stand for in the church. So Grace decided to take a different turn and to have an abortion, just to do a church wedding. At this point Grace was already 2 months far into the pregnancy. Her mom was excited about the pregnancy as well as the husband, but because of what the church people would say, Grace ended up aborting the pregnancy. She lied to her mother that she had a miscarriage as a result of her falling down in the bathroom. Her husband Mark also knew about the abortion plan. Despite the rocky start, Grace and Mark tied their knot in a heartfelt ceremony. It was a successful wedding ceremony. However, their journey together was marked by sorrow as Grace experienced series of miscarriages as soon as the pregnancy gets to 2 months, just the time she had abortion in the past. The miscarriages brought lots of disagreement in the marriage and that put lots of stings in their marriage. The weight of loss grew heavier with each passing day and the strain on their relationship became too much to bear. Grace and Mark were unable to wear that stamps together, so they decided to part ways amicably. The marriage ended after 4 years of living together and being married with no successful pregnancy and no child. Determined to find healing and a fresh start, Grace made a courageous decision to relocate to a new town, where she encountered a different kind of solace in the form of Pastor Samuel. Pastor Samuel is a charismatic and compassionate figure who offered her support and guidance. As their friendship deepened, so did Grace hope for a brighter future. However, the narrative took an awful turn when Pastor Samuel, whom Grace had come to trust, revealed a different side. Grace found herself in a vulnerable position once again as she discovered was pregnant with Pastor Samuel's child. Pastor Samuel had promised to marry her, but instead of fulfilling his promise to marry her, he sent her to her village assuring her that he would follow soon after. Days turned into weeks, weeks turns into months, and Pastor Samuel never went to the village to fulfill his promise towards Grace. The promised union remained a distant dream. Grace was abused in several ways in the village, by her biological mother and some of her sisters. They called her all sort of name, that they sent her to abroad to go and study, and she came back with pregnancy. Grace was so ashamed of herself, she carried the pregnancy all through by herself in the village, and Pastor Samuel never showed interest, never sent any form of financial assistance towards Grace. Grace had no proper medical care for the child. She had little or no prenatal care for the child. Grace was really sad with the pregnancy in the village, and she kept saying, "I prayed for this child when I was married to my husband. It never came and it finally came. I have to suffer so much for this child." Month later Grace was ready to have her child, but strategy struck. There were complications during childbirth and that took Grace away from the world, living behind a tale of love loss and the intricacies of the human experience. Pastor Samuel was contacted and he denied knowing her. It was really a very tragic event. Grace was buried, and even the child did not survive the whole incident. The moral of the story is that because someone is a pastor doesn't mean he's righteous. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and please share your thought and opinion about Grace or Pastor Samuel with us.